Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bonus Points podcast. I'm Joe Garrett, as always, being joined by Ollie Guy. Oi, oi, Ollie.
Oi, oi. I wanted to let you go first.
Wait until you're oi, oi before you speak, Ollie. That's the rule.
That's it. I waited my turn this time. Got my oi, oi in, though.
How's it going, Ollie? We're not going to talk too much about real life stuff, but it's a frantic time for you in your real life. For those listening to the audio only version, Ollie's showing the bags under his eyes.
I'm moving house in 2 days' time, so everything is in boxes, in bits everywhere. I've been going to the new house, painting it 3 days in a row. I got up this morning at 7 a.m, so I came back after 3 days' work on the new house to record this. So here I am. You're going to have to take the lead here because I am tired.
It's funny because I'm quite tired as well, but it's from so we're recording this on a Sunday. On Friday we had our friend's birthday party where we had a sports competition when we split into two teams and played a bunch of games. Then yesterday we went and did an inflatable Ninja Warrior course for another friend's birthday. And then we've just had people around now and we've been playing badminton in the garden.
Oh my God.
They're still out there. I'm just coming to record this. So I've got bruises and grazes on my elbows and stuff. But you've been doing a bunch of work, moving house, and I've just been playing a bunch of childish games.
I have paint on my hands. I did have my watch. My glasses were covered in paint. I've cleaned up for this. So yeah, here I am. The things we do for you guys, just so you all know. Remember this.
The excitement of talking about this episode's game is going to power us through. And that is because, Ollie, we are going to be discussing our joint pick of game of Splinter Cell Blacklist.
Well, it is kind of joint pick. I actually picked Chaos Theory. And you were like,
yeah,
shall we do Blacklist? And I was like, that is the newer one, so we probably should do the newest one.
I think that's exactly why it's a joint pick. You said Splinter Cell, I said Blacklist, and we both said, let's do it. And here we are.
Shall I do the Wikipedia entry first, or do you want to tell me about your Splinter Cell history?
Let's do the Wikipedia first, just to bring everyone up to speed.
I like that. Bring them up. Right, okay. So, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Blacklist is a 2013 stealth action adventure video game developed by Ubisoft Toronto, published by Ubisoft. The game is a sequel to Splinter Cell Conviction and the seventh installment of the Splinter Cell series. Blacklist marks the return of asymmetrical multiplayer mode Spies vs. Mercs, which was introduced in Pandora tomorrow. There we go.
Okay. Right, let's go to Splinter Cell history then. Do you want to go first?
Yes. I played the very original one on the original Xbox, but I was very young, so I don't think I had much luck or much fun with it. But I remember thinking it was cool, but it was too hard for me. And then I also played quite a lot of Splinter Cell Conviction. I may have finished it. But would have come out when I was at uni, so I was I had loads of free time.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Conviction is the prequel to this one. Yep. And they're kind of linked in terms of they have a similar style and kind of control system. They're not exactly the same. Conviction's a little bit more actiony, I think, than Blacklist, but it's kind of probably felt a little bit familiar to this one in certain ways.
Definitely. Conviction's also a bit more gritty. It's got a lot less of the military talk, military base. It's more Sam Fisher's wearing his regular clothes in quite a lot of the missions. It's a bit like Splinter Cell meets Max Payne. Is the vibe. Yeah,
I also think of it from, I never played it, but actually I think I played the demo of it, but from what I kind of saw with the preview stuff, it actually kind of makes me think of, Bourne a little bit, the Bourne films.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
As in, you're sort of some expert spy, but they've been put in, a situation where they're kind of improvising and kind of, going it alone.
Yeah, they also had, I think they had, a big interrogation mechanic that was, you drag someone around a bathroom and you'd be like, I'm going to use the urinal. And you just smash
smash them into it. Yeah, so there was, for Blacklist, in one of the previews, they had a kind of a torture scene thing, an interactive thing, whereas you actually remember the scene, as it is in the game, but originally you'd choose how far you want to push the knife into someone.
Ooh,
and everyone was like, that's gross and horrible, and so they took it out the game.
Yeah,
so
I think that might be fair enough.
I'm glad they did.
Yeah. You're telling me so I was going to make a silly joke about, I was going to say, you're telling me lovely Sam Fisher tortures people in this game? That absolute ray of sunshine?
Oh God, we'll get onto him in a little bit. But yeah, let me just say my Splinter Cell history.
Yes.
So, like you, I played the original back in the day. I played it when it first released at a friend's house, and then quite a few years later, I got it for myself, kind of pre-owned. And I remember playing through all of the original and really liking it. And then absolutely nothing until a couple of weeks ago, where I played through all of Blacklist. I am curious how far you made it through, bearing in mind the living situation that we previously mentioned.
I actually got quite far. I think I got to about mission 8 or 9 of 14. So the last thing I did... what did I do? I did the English mill level. And then I did one more after that where it was like... Oh, it was lasers. And you had to like carry RFID soldiers up to laser beams to get them to close and open.
Okay.
And then you have to... like download computer data or some military thing and then run out. That's the last mission I did. So I think I got quite far. I've eaten gas that's like damaged me and that bit.
Wait, what?
The bit where he
gas. Oh yeah,
sprays on him.
Like bumbling through.
And he's
I thought
like,
you were saying like you're eating like gas to like keep your energy up to keep going. I was like, was this like some like weird like energy drink?
No, it's the mission after the one after. He's like, don't let Briggs come out again because he blew it. Ugh. Like
it was like that. Briggs saves his life and he's like so angry about it.
Oh yeah. He's like a man who has never experienced joy in his life in any form.
Yeah, it's funny. So like, I mean, I guess we'll talk about the story a little bit then because it's kind of come up naturally. So Sam Fisher is like the leader of kind of like this group, and as kind of Ollie set up, he's like a very grumpy person. And so my experience of the story is like, I didn't think it was like bad, but like it's super like cliche. Everyone's like caricatures that you've seen so many times.
Yeah.
I actually got like a list of like quotes. Like there's things like, I want to be on the ground an hour ago, or like, you're not paid to think, like all of these like cliche terms. One of them really made me laugh is when, I don't think you would have experienced it yet, but there's like this group of soldiers, like American soldiers that are like completely getting destroyed by these terrorists. And then Sam Fisher comes down and says like, they're like, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm here to help. And then they go, who says we need help? And it's like,
Who said we needed help?
like you obviously, and then they're like, okay, now we need help, do this. It's just like everyone has to be so grumpy. Just say, thanks for coming to save our lives. Everyone's so annoyed. But then looking at reviews, both from back in the day and like I looked up some kind of like video essays that people have done recently.
Yeah.
And like they like love Sam Fisher in this.
Really?
And they like really like the ones I ran across were like, well, one of the strong points is the story. So I was like, I think it's maybe just preference of like kind of liking that tone, and I'm just not really a fan of that sort of thing.
We got a comment actually from Evan Harryardi about the voice actor in Sam Fisher. Said one of the most controversial things about Splinter Cell Blacklist was the changing of actor from the cult actor Michael Ironside, who is the epic teacher with the metal arm in Starship Troopers, to Eric Johnson due to Ironside's cancer diagnosis. Coupled with flat characterization in Blacklist, Sam Fisher felt, to quote an escapist writer, a miserable jerk, and people felt he had lost the charm that Fisher had from previous installments. But I guess we don't really know what he used to be like. I don't remember much of Conviction, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, the voice is very recognizable, and like Michael Ironside has a great voice. Like, I think the problem with the controversy is so Michael Ironside hadn't like said publicly anywhere that he had cancer, but he wasn't up to doing the game. But like Ubisoft couldn't say why, and so what they put out is basically that they're doing motion capture for this game, and they want an actor that can do the motion capture as well, and Michael Ironside couldn't. But later on, it was kind of revealed that like, oh no, they would have had Michael Ironside, but like he just wasn't physically up to voice acting.
Yeah.
But Ubisoft couldn't say that at the time
rock
because
and
he had
hard
like
place, yeah,
and so I think maybe, you know, if people knew the situation, like I don't think anyone, you know, logically would be angry at Ubisoft. But I think because, you know, people didn't know, I think that was why there was a lot of controversy around that.
Also, he's horrible. Like he sucks,
just
right? Like he's a terrible character. There's a bit where actually the one character that did surprise me was Charlie, which was like the little nerdy guy. I thought I was going to hate him, but actually he was kind of like probably the nicest one out of all of them. But the he says something and Charlie's like, oh yeah, I can get a drone in and blah blah blah, and then Sam Fisher's like, yes would have been enough. And it's like, oh, mate, leave him alone, man. Like, he's trying his best.
Even him is such a cliche.
Oh,
like one of his lines is
yeah.
like I got me peeps finding what they can and stuff like that. It's just like, oh no.
Yeah, and it's all like there's so much military speak in it that I was like, I don't even know what's going on. And also,
But it doesn't like. But like, I
on.
think, if it's meant to be like all military, like it's like these are all the worst people from the job because they're all so emotional and like they'll like show up at like, I mean, I know it's like all intentional, but like they'll show up at the mission and they're like, okay, what's the plan? Like as he's abseiling in, it's like, did you not have a chat on the way down? You know, I know it's the same with all of these films.
Yeah.
And if it was super realistic, it was boring. But it just means that like I'm just not buying into any of it because it is all so ridiculous, like action movie.
Yeah, and there's so much military like colloquialisms, also kind of hindered by the fact that the enemy are known as the engineers, which is just a term, a job. So first few times they said it, I was like, the engineers, like who's engineers? Who do they work for? And it's like, oh no, that's them. They're called the engineers. I was like, oh, that's what's happening. I couldn't really follow what was going on. I mean, the general idea of the plot that I have is the Blacklist is something that's bad and everyone keeps deleting it so they can't get it.
So what? So what it is the engineers are basically a group of people. I think it's like 12 countries that are fed up with America, like, and their international affairs, and they've got troops all around the world. And they're basically just saying, like, stop bullying everyone in America. Like, bring all of your troops back to America, or we're going to keep attacking all of these different places. And I believe the actual Blacklist is, like, the places they're going to attack, I think, maybe. That might be wrong. But, like, the general consensus is it's, like, a bunch of, like, countries that are, like, want American troops to return to America. And so... yeah, that's kind of the setup, which I think is like a relatively interesting setup. Like in standard Ubisoft fashion, they never really want to address anything too political because it's a bit. It's kind of weird because I'm like, are America meant to be the good guys? Because there is like a scene in Guantanamo Bay where Sam Fisher like does torture someone, and at the end you have the choice to kill them, and like there's a lot of times where you know you're flying like this UAV and shooting missiles down in a civilian area, and so like they can't play off like, oh, Americans are the good guys trying to save the world, but then they also don't delve anywhere deeper into like the who is the good guy really. They never really explored that angle either.
Yeah, funny. Well, do you know what? Absolutely not funny at all. Coincidental timing. I watched a documentary about WikiLeaks just before I played this, and it had a lot of that drone strike footage in it, including that famous one that was like they thought the guy had a rocket launcher and he had a video camera. Have you seen that one? And it's like
not in that in particular, but
so that's like the big turning point, famous one. And then straight after playing this and like firing down, I was like, they're trying to make it look like real drone footage, which is actually quite weird. It's like not fun. Like, thinking about people looking at the drone footage, being like, how can we replicate this as close as possible? It's a bit like, I don't know. I just don't like this theme, like military theme. It's, not my bag.
Yeah, I think we're both in alignment with there. There was like kind of a time back in the day with kind of Call of Duty when it was like went from World War II where like everyone was playing it, but like I think especially within the last few years, like it's kind of getting more pushed away from this style, considering what's going on in the world.
Yeah, the last thing just on the plot and the crew and everything, like they also really lean on this like virtual screen thing. And like it's quite naff. Like it never really looked cool. Like where they would basically, so what they have in the game is this big desk screen, which is fine. They like move things around on it. It would never work in real life. Like the gestures they're doing are all crazy on it. But then every so often they would like project it into the game world, and it would be like you're like in a little office somewhere in the Middle East, like looking for a USB drive, and then you'd get a massive floor to ceiling video call, and it's like, this actually doesn't, this is kind of stupid, and it's like distractingly stupid, all of the screens flying around everywhere, compared to Conviction, which only had the floating text for the mission objectives, which was like quite a famous thing, but it would like, to my memory, overlay it into the world in a way where like it didn't just look like it was projected in front of you. It would be like, you know, on the boxes or whatever. So it was still overlaid, but it was like a bit more integrated, whereas this is just like there's screens everywhere. There's people everywhere, like there's maps coming out, people opening stuff, throwing things around, like where it was just like, I can't listen to what you're saying because it's so mad what you're doing. It's like Minority Report.
Yeah, like, I mean, that goes into what I was saying about, like, the whole thing is you would never believe this is actually a people trying to do a job here. You know, the whole thing is ludicrous. I did like the kind of like playable lobby type thing, whereas like you're in like this ship, like the Paladin, which is like this big plane sort of mission base, and you can go to talk to people to get missions from them, or you can like upgrade the plane, like upgrade the infirmary, and it gives you more health in missions, like things like that. And like if you wanted, you could go and call your daughter, or go up to like the pilot, or like you capture someone and they're in like a prison cell and you can go and like talk to them. And I think that all worked pretty well, and like the transitions are quite slick between quite a lot of those things into gameplay. So I think that works all right, but the actual like interface is like ludicrous. It's like no one's even got a keyboard. How is anyone even like doing anything?
How do you type?
They're like, look at this, and just like sliding it across. It's like, could you have missed if you went? Like, it's like air hockey.
It would just be people going like, "Oh, I've minimized it. Can you see my screen?" Like that's what it would be like.
Or like, no, not that. I didn't mean to bring that up.
Sorry, I've got a million tabs open. Like.
It's just running really slow. It's just like need a reboot. That's what the real world version would be.
But I do agree. It was a little bit like XCOM, wasn't it? In the best way. It was a bit XCOM, where it was like you go back to your base, you can upgrade your guns, you can upgrade your ship, get better stuff, then you go back and do your mission again.
Super light version. To,
very light
to XCOM.
version.
But like it worked well, and it was fast enough, and like the key things that you had to do were all grouped together enough that it never slowed you down, or there was never like a loading screen. Because sometimes when they try and do that like in-game sort of menu thing, I'm like, if this is like significantly slower than a menu, it's just worse, no matter how immersive it is. Whereas this is fast enough that I actually kind of liked it.
I liked it. I actually think, seeing as we're moving on to gameplay, moment-to-moment gameplay in this game is pretty fun. Pretty good. Running through the levels, all a good time. Interesting controls. I mean, the game, for people who don't know anything about Splinter Cell, it's a stealth game, but this is very much a light touch. It's kind of more like a Batman Arkham stealth level. Like it's not super immersive or anything like that. It's like a lot of context sensitive buttons where it'll be like, oh, if you happen to be above this guy, you can press a button to drop down and smash him, or you can press a button because you're standing at a certain point, which means you can jump over a wall. It's all things like that. It was it had a few unusual things which I did like. I thought the controls were really interesting because it's not really automated because you're making choices, but it's very much like, I want to go into a piece of cover that's 10 feet away, and I'll press a button and Sam will maneuver himself to that cover without me having to do anything, which makes the gameplay really fast because you can kind of zip around, which was pretty cool. Also, the fact that even though it is a stealth game, I played on normal difficulty, you're kind of a one-man army. Like, the enemies are really going to struggle against you. It's not like even if you get into a bit of a jam, you're probably going to be fine. And also, he's very powerful. Like, his gadgets are really strong. So, I felt like through the whole game that I had the leg up on the enemy the entire time. No matter how many of them there were, it was like, you cannot stop me. Like, I'm a beast.
Then there's also the execution mechanic, which comes over from Conviction, where you can... So you got to kind of build it up by taking out enemies anyway, and then you can like mark enemies and then just press Y, and then like Sam Fisher in kind of a flashy way will like take them all out, kind of do headshots or whatever on them all.
Yeah, I swear the thing about this game over Conviction was that you could do that while running, but I didn't manage to do that once. Because in Conviction you had to do it from cover, but I thought in Blacklist you could do it while sprinting, so he'd carry on running and...
Okay, you don't have to be in cover, but it kind of like cuts the camera, so I don't know how you would stay running because it kind of will spin around and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I swear I saw him like vaulting and sliding over a box, and as he was sliding, anyway, it doesn't matter because neither of us did it. Also, I remember saying to you like, oh, I swear there's two versions of this game, and I can't remember what it was. It's cross-gen or something. It's because there was a Wii U version that ran at better graphics, better frame rate, and it had its own things. That's what's been what I was thinking of when I was like, I know there's another version. It had the touchscreen. You could like do puzzles and stuff, I think.
So that's I got a Wii U. I could have played the Wii U version if I had known. It was also the Wii U version was developed by a different studio as well. Like I'm assuming there was like
Nintendo
shared assets. I think it was Ubisoft Shanghai, but I may be imagining that. But they also did the the multiplayer as well. So this was made by Ubisoft Toronto, which was their first ever game that they made. And then since then, they've mostly been a support studio for other teams within Ubisoft, as you know, a lot of these games are very big projects with like hundreds of people working on them. But straight out the gate with this being their original game, but there were like a lot of the team from Conviction and kind of the same director as well. But yeah, what did you like? I know you could have given a bit of an idea, but like, was this game what you expected it to be?
Yeah, I mean, the gameplay is fun. It was pretty much what I expected. It kind of bummed me out a bit more than I was expecting. I don't know why. I was just like, this is quite a miserable experience. But like,
is that more like the story side?
Like, the story just bummed me out, and the characters were like, I don't want to talk to them or hear from them because they all suck. But in terms of like moment-to-moment gameplay, like it is good fun. I can see how you managed to finish it. Like, it's very frictionless as well. Like, you could just roll on and on and on. The missions are also only about an hour each, which is like a really good length for this sort of thing as well. And they also all had super cool, like, something would happen, like some sort of crescendo where like, oh, it's a lights out moment where like all of the power's gone, or it would be like, oh, they know you're there and they're sending in reinforcements. Like, every mission had something that would be like, oh, we're halfway through because it's changed. And all of those also I found were like really engaging, very good at pulling you forward, I think. But generally, the atmosphere was a bit dour, you could say. What did you think?
Yeah, I just thought about what you were saying about those moments. Like, that continues through. Like, towards the end, there's some kind of more extreme versions of that. There's even like a section that you play in like first person as just like a first person shooter and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Which kind of surprised me. And then also just the locations, there's really good variety between them. And like, you know, it's like, oh, this is up like in like a shopping center or something, or like up this going up this like lighthouse, or this like really like rich person's mansion. Like, there's quite a cool variety of environments, which I think really helps with a game like this, because with a stealth game it can sometimes seem a little bit limiting. It is mostly at night, but there are some that are kind of at like kind of sunset. So because like obviously light is such a key mechanic throughout all Splinter Cell games. Like, they keep the mechanics from previous ones, like you can shoot out lights, you know, so you can be in darkness, and it makes such a huge difference to like whether an enemy can see you or not. Like, to the point where I kind of often didn't bother with the cover system too much, because I found it didn't really matter, because if I'm in cover or not, they're not going to see me if I'm in the dark.
Yeah,
and
true.
Also, I don't think the cover system was that great. It was a little bit inconsistent, and sometimes I'm like, well, why can't I go on this bit, or why can't I move to that next bit? And I wasn't always sure, so I kind of only, like, the main time I used it is if you need to cross a gap very quickly. It's often quicker to do it that way rather than running or kind of just walking normally.
Yeah, going around corners was for some reason really hard in cover. Like, as in, you're against a wall and you want to go forward and left. You just couldn't. Like, you'd have to leave cover, walk around, and then which seems like a bit of an oversight. Unless there was a button to do it and neither of us realised what it was. But it seems like a massive oversight on their part.
And like things like at the top of the stairs, there'd often be a time like where you'd want to go into cover and like you couldn't go into the cover along stairs. There's like a lot of things like that. And this came out, so this was 2013. And so this was well in the time where cover systems had been developed. So I just don't think it was the greatest one. Even just like the way it's controlled, where it's like B to go into cover and then A to switch. Like, I wasn't a big fan of, but it wasn't a big downside. Like, overall, I really enjoyed the game. So I'm not a huge stealth fan in terms of like what you think of stealth in terms of like learn their patterns, like their movement patterns of enemies and sneak past them or take them out. Like, I'm often not a big fan of that, but I like stealth games where, like you said, you're super powerful either with like gadgets or powers. So like Dishonored is really fun because it's, you know, you're not just like sneaking past them. It's like, oh, I'm going to like set up this really cool thing to get them. And I'm like up in like the shadows and taking them out. And the gadgets in this, you know, you get enough of them that you can, you know, you almost don't need to use your gun. You got like the classic throw like a little camera on the wall and it will make sound and like gas them. You got like the tricopter, which is this little drone that can fly around, like really good at taking out snipers and stuff. And so I was just using them the whole way through, like even at times when just getting like a headshot would be easier. And the only times where I felt kind of forced to kind of play more the traditional game was when you faced enemies that like the ones with helmets where and they would have gas masks, and so they were a little bit more difficult. And then I think the best way to take them out was to sneak up behind them, and then you could kind of take them out in one grab. So they were the only times where they really forced me to shake up my normal strategy. Oh, and dogs, because I wouldn't shoot dogs, so it would always be a struggle. I'd always have to put the dogs to sleep, and so they made it a little bit more difficult because I couldn't shoot a dog.
Well, the sleep grenades are just completely insane because they don't even make a noise. They don't make a noise, and they make a huge area that they cover, and it clears instantly, so you can run through it. But
every time there's like two people having a conversation, I'm like, I know which pocket I'm going to.
The silence pistol headshots, a problem that all stealth games have, absolutely reign supreme. Like nothing can stop your silence. All of my stats that I was boosting was all into accuracy, so that I could get headshots from anywhere. I mean, I did use the gadgets a lot, but it was like, I'm just gonna shoot this guy in the head. Even my special weapon, the long arm, whatever it's called, I would also just put a suppressor on that and just be like quietly going through, taking them out. But yeah, the gadgets and stuff was a cool twist. I mean, a lot of people were saying it's quite immersive simmy, and I don't, other than getting a loading screen tip that's like, you can electrify the water to kill multiple people, which is like the immersive sim crutch. Other than that, I didn't really get, it was more just like first person shooter where you have a few gadgets, really.
No, yeah, it's not like that. That is actually I was expecting it to be more immersive simmy. Like it's got things like if there's broken glass on the floor and you walk over it, it makes a sound. But if you shoot a window and broken glass falls on the floor, it doesn't. Or like landmines, like if you go into a landmine, you get blown up, an enemy one, but if they go on it, they don't.
Yeah.
And it's like, they could try and explain away like, oh, there's some tag that doesn't set off. It's like, no, but it's more fun if they did. Same with yours. If I throw down my landmine, I should blow it up if I go over it, but I don't. Like that sort of thing is like the core for like these sort of system-based immersive sims, and they flirt with the idea of being an immersive sim, but they don't commit to it. It's a little bit more rigid and kind of straight shoot, and a little bit more like slick. Like immersive sims are a little bit of a harder sell because players that don't play with that sort of level of creativity and experiment and are just kind of playing through and just shooting headshots. They don't get that value. Whereas a game like this, where in those scenarios you're talking about those moments where it forces you to like, you're now in this situation, now we've taken away your gadget, now we've done this, like they're putting you in those situations to force you to do different things. Whereas in an immersive sim, like a lot of that is more player driven. The
another thing that kind of distances it from the immersive sim, in my mind anyway, is that there's no mischievousness. Like, I feel like a perfect stealth game, we're going to make the first Metal Gear Solid comparison, is your main character needs to be like 50% hard man, 50% cheeky. And Sam Fisher is 100% hard man. So like, I didn't really feel like, I want to lure this guy out and like, be cheeky with the AI. It's literally like, I'm here on a job and I'm going to just move through as slickly as I possibly can, which is kind of a shame really, because like sneaking around is, playing stealth games, causing mischief is like a lot of the fun for me anyway. It's like, just what crazy thing can I do where like people don't know what's going on? Like the craziest thing in this game that really made me go like, oh my God, was when I jumped on a pipe over the top and was like going like right over someone's head. I was like, it's like a cartoon and they're all taking it so seriously, but he's like going along, and my partner was watching and she was like, there's no way they wouldn't see you, like, just above, and he's got like covered in lights as well, so he's like
just like a full-grown man, just like
he's like a big guy as well, and he's like old. But yeah, the lack of mischievousness, man. I love a mischievous stealth game, and this just did not deliver. I suppose it's different though, right? It's not aimed at that. It's more of a,
it wants to be cool. Like I think the word you used earlier, slick, like that, slick is a word you could use across like every aspect of the game, like all of like the transitions, like all the gameplay, the cutscenes, like I think slick is probably what they're going for, and I think they did pull that off, but slick doesn't line up with like mischief.
No, or fun. Not really like traditional sense of fun, like. Let's go and do some crazy stealth stuff. It's like, we're here to do a mission and that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to get out. And if you bring emotions into it, I'll be angry. That's what it's like.
Did you have any moments with just things lined up in like a funny way or anything though? Because there is, with the AI, I think for the enemies is quite good. It does the system that a few games have done. I don't know which did it first, where it kind of marks your like last known position with kind of an outline, which is really powerful information. And I'm sure some purists wouldn't like it. There is like a kind of like a perfectionist mode where I'm sure that's probably not enabled, but it's really it once again it just puts like all of the power onto your side of the court, where you're like, well, I know they're all going to trap me down there, so I'm going to loop around here to get this other angle.
Yeah, I feel like the London Mill level was really good for stuff like that. There was a section where you start off by dropping through the floor into the floor below, and you can like go down an elevator shaft, or you can like go round out. So like I did get spotted there, but then I climbed out the window and like went around the edge of the building and managed to jump in behind them. It was always quite cool getting through a section like that, and then you get the bonus for like enemies like undisturbed or whatever it is it says, where it's like they didn't even know that you'd pass through.
Yeah. That's something when you speak about it, there's kind of like 3 like rating systems. So it's either Ghost, Panther, or Assault. Yeah. And so Ghost just means you're kind of going through, enemies don't see you, you don't touch them. Panther is kind of what you think of more traditional stealth games, where you're not killing people, but you're putting them to sleep or tranquilizing them or whatever, knocking them out. And then Assault, you're just playing Call of Duty in Splinter Cell.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're kind of forced to play Assault in some situations. I think that's probably the most boring one. Like the shooting is fine, but like if you're not kind of using all the gadgets and you're just like, I'm going to equip like frag grenades and an AK-47, like that just like I don't think you have fun. But you know what? Like that is an option. Like you can replay these levels. Maybe it would be fun to like try them out. But the game's very nice at like it gives you points for like any style. Like one of the things I think is a problem with some of these games is you get all like these cool things. Like one of the problems of the original Dishonored game is that you'd get all these upgrades, but they'd always be for like killing enemies. And like they struggled to find like cool gadgets and stuff for sneaking past them. But I like the fact in this game is you'll leave an area and it'll be like, you left 5 enemies like untouched. Like here's a bunch of XP. Rather than only giving you XP to like take them out. And then also, hey, you shot them in the head with an assault rifle and threw a frag grenade. We give you points for that too. Like we're not punishing you for that. Like you can use whatever strategy. So even though it's kind of not dissimilar to other stealth games, because most stealth games, unless they give you an instant fail, like will have essentially those 3 gameplay styles, but like naming them and rewarding you for them, I think just communicates well to the player. Like, hey, any way you want to play is viable. Like, have fun.
Do you know if you'd get more experience if you lent more into one of those 3 options? If you like continuously did Panther, would you get more experience points than if you did Panther 80% of the time, but then also 20% Assault? Because like that would make sense, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So I know that like if you take out an enemy, it's not the same for different styles. Like I think if you just do a headshot with the pistol, it's less compared to like using some of the gadgets and stuff. But yeah, I haven't crunched the numbers to see what's the most efficient. But I think they seem at least relatively controllable. I think you get like 75 points for like just shooting someone, and I think it might go up to maybe 150. I think was it when you sneak past. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
You even get points for just walking around. 100 points exploration would always come up.
Yeah, exploring. I think that's when you kind of get to an area that like you didn't have to go, because the levels they're like semi-open. Like it's overall a pretty linear game, but there's a few times you'll get opened up into like an area that's like kind of like a little mini arena, and you will be able to have a choice of routes that you can go to the high ground. Sometimes there'll be a little vent you can go through underneath, and it's not, this is not like a Hitman level or anything, but it is kind of open to the point where, like, if me and Ollie put our gameplay side by side, like, inevitably we would have had a different approach, based on the routes we take, but then also the equipment we bring in. So each level, it will recommend, like, hey, like, we're going against like there's going to be like friendlies here, so I recommend like using like the sleep grenades, or like, hey, there's like a big military base here, maybe bring like the landmines or something. But you don't have to, you can ignore it. You can always, the tricopter's always good. I always would bring that.
Sleep grenades.
And then also throughout the level you can like find like stations where you can like switch out what you want to take with you, so they really give you a lot of freedom there.
I think I had sleep grenades, tear gas, camera, tricopter, and that, between all of those things I probably had about 15 rounds or units of ammo between all of them. That's almost like 15 people. So that was like kind of had me covered. I did also bring in the taser. I didn't do any of the side content, but I did manage to get every single capture. You know, in some missions or some enemies, it would just say like, "Oh, capture this guy." I managed to get every single one of those. So that was quite cool. But that would be like a sleep grenade, or to fly the helicopter up to their face and like shock them, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I the side content, I tried to do one side mission and it was like ridiculously difficult because I found the main game to be quite easy. It was definitely getting harder, but the difficulty spike of the side content, I was like, I couldn't even get. It was the one, I think we spoke about it. It was the one where it's like a water tower or like an oil rig or something. I couldn't even get into the building without getting spotted. So I was like,
is that where you started down on like the water?
Yeah. And I was like, I must need to do co-op for this because I don't know how to get in. So I tried about 5 times and then I gave up.
Yeah, I smashed that one. I don't think I've even seen Ollie. I'm not even joking. I know what it is. It was a fun one. So yeah, that's side stuff. So they take place. They're in the multiplayer maps. That's kind of the areas they take place in. And as you say, they could be played co-op or solo. And so if you are playing solo, you're always a bit like, am I meant to be doing this by myself or not? And you do sometimes run into places where it's like, hey, like if you were co-op, you could boost someone up here. It's like, thanks, I'm on my own. But I will say, so we did try to play co-op together online. Apparently it still works. We were able to get into a lobby, but it just kept breaking in different ways. Mm-hmm. And in the end, you know, we tried for a good 15 minutes and we were not able to get into a game together. But I did get to play co-op. So I got a friend at the moment who's around the house all weekend. He's still here, Ronan, who listens to the podcast. So shout out to Ronan.
Hello, Ronan.
But he mentioned like that he's excited for the Splinter Cell episode because like he used to play like co-op all the time back in the day.
Okay, nice.
And I was like, oh, really? Would you like to have a game now? Because I kind of want to test it out. And so we played through a level together. Like he hadn't played in years, so he didn't really know the controls that well yet. And also he was playing as a guest, so we just had like the base stuff. So I had all like these cool toys and gadgets, and he was doing the base version. But like as I expected it would be, like it's a really good co-op game. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Nice.
Doing like double aerial takedowns on people, or like let's take them out at the same time, or like he was up on the high ground and I was like flying the tricopter to like take out all of like the snipers, and then he was covering me.
That sounds
like
good.
we did rubbish. We kept getting caught and having to. We did a lot of assault during our time. Yeah. But it like this. Like even just doing that one mission, like I can tell that this is like a top tier co-op game.
See, we should play Sniper Elite 5. We would have I've said this to you before, we would have so much fun. And it's World War II as well, so it's not as miserable as modern day military stuff. Anyway, we got a really good comment about multiplayer because I didn't think you were going to say you played it. So I pulled this comment out from Adaboy Shankle, who says, my father was a huge fan of Splinter Cell series, and when Blacklist came out, him and I would play through the co-op mode together all the time, trying to perfect our times, do the survival mode without getting caught. I know the performance of the game can be rocky, and glitches were prevalent, but it was the number one game my dad and I could play when he got home from work, so it holds a special place in my heart. Co-op is a huge part of this Splinter Cell game in particular, so I hope you're able to experience it, whether together or with your partners. Also, the multiplayer, while shut down, was really enjoyable. The spies stayed in third-person stealth gameplay and mercs were in first-person. I thought it was a really fun dynamic, especially since you could see how it would look from the enemy's perspective. Everything covered there by Adaboy Shankle, so thank you very much, because that was all stuff I wasn't able to play. So
yeah, so unfortunately, obviously, when we're doing the list, like Ollie's not played co-op, neither of us did like PvP, but like we tried. That's unfortunately the situation, but at least I got a glimpse of it. And who knows, maybe one time, because you can do split screen, so maybe one time when you're down, we could do a mission. I think that would actually be a lot of fun to do that sometime. But yeah, it seems really good. Well, one of the other things you can do, which I really liked, is for the executions, you can sync up. So if I mark someone, and then I can press hold Y, and it will like basically invite the other person to execute. If they tap Y, you do a joint one. But so for the people in the helmets, you go like boom, boom, and you both shoot them rapid fire to take them out. And so that was a cool twist. And like they do loads of like very co-op-y things. Like on the level we did, like we took turns being in a UAV. So someone's on the ground running around. Then the other person's like covering them from above. So obviously from the person in above's view, they're seeing that kind of view of like the computer screen shooting down, but the other person's just seeing all these huge explosions, and you're like, oh, there's someone like trying to get me on like the roof. Can you take them out for me? And so that kind of works really well. Like it doesn't feel like a game where it was a single player game and like there can just be someone there. Like sometimes when, even though it is a good co-op game, like you play Halo and it's like, oh, and now Master Chief 2 is here. Like it doesn't feel like that. Yeah. It does feel like co-op was a consideration for the levels where you could have it.
When you play, who's your co-op partner? Is it Briggs?
Yes.
Okay. Because another Metal Gear Solid comparison, Peace Walker was the king of co-op. Have we talked about this before?
Peace Walker's definitely come up. I don't know what you're going to go on to say.
When you play co-op with someone, you're playing as Snake and they're playing as an agent with a balaclava on. But on their screen, they're playing as Snake and you're the agent with the balaclava on. It just works. I don't know why more games don't do that. It's such a clever idea. I mean, Peace Walker kind of makes more sense because you do have loads of agents and balaclavas on. But it's like, that's a great way of doing that.
I feel like Briggs is in this game for this purpose.
Yeah.
And you do actually play as him. When I mentioned about the first person section, you're playing as him.
Oh, okay.
It's this quite cool mission where like on his side, even though he is meant to be a stealthy guy, like it's first person shooter. And then when you're playing as Sam Fisher, it's stealthy. I guess because if you're playing as him, you don't like know all the gadgets that he has because you haven't set it up maybe. So I guess that's why.
Second game in a row that we've done that changes to first person towards the end. Wow. Yeah. There we go. Comparison made between Blacklist and Indica. Who would manage to
link the only link between those two games, but we managed to find it.
Do you think it is worth me playing the rest of it?
I think you would know. Like, I don't know exactly how much fun you're having. There's, like, I think, like, all of, like, so the actual ending, there's no point speaking about it for spoiling it, but, like, the actual ending of the story is fine. Like, I don't think, I wouldn't say for the actual ending. In terms of, like, the rest of those missions, they are of at least an equal quality as the rest of the game you've played, apart from one bit where you're like going down like a bunch of lasers down a shaft and you're like they're going back and forth slowly and you're dodging them and it's like ridiculous as if that would ever be a security system and it's just not fun to do. So apart from that one level, like if you are enjoying the game, like you will continue enjoying it for the same amount. If you're like, it doesn't shake up the formula in a crazy way, apart from like amping up the stakes a little bit, as you might expect. There is one other cool story moment that I won't spoil as well. That happens as well. But I would say I want to play co-op with you. So I think let's do co-op together. I think would probably be the way to do it because that was really good fun.
Cool. The last mission I did, I felt like it was getting quite like cerebral. Like I was really having to think. It was one with you basically have to go in and hack a computer that's in the middle of a glass room that's like filled with lasers and there's two people walking around in there back to back. And I was like, wow, it's like really pushing the limit of like, do I know my gear well enough that I can find a way through this? Although in that section, I was like, it's like RFID doors that only the guards can open. I was like, okay, I'll just pick up a guard that I knocked out earlier, run up to the door and it will open. And it didn't open. And I was like, come on. Like, so I ended up having to go down and like turn off the coolant so I could go on. That was like a whole mission about doing that. But I was like, I can just walk through the door. I've got the key. And the door didn't open. But yeah, it was that kind of felt like it's probably not going to get much harder than that. Because that's a really crazy moment.
Yeah, they throw more of the guards with like the helmets and the gas masks at you, and then
the best they can do.
You probably had seen them, but there's the ones with like the laser sights that they can see in the dark. Like they come into play a little bit more regularly, but yeah, they don't really like. One of the goals for this game was they wanted it to be a little bit more friendly for new players. So like for Conviction, they went like very friendly for new players, and then the classic Splinter Cell players were like, "You've taken this too far. This isn't. I want to be skulking around in the dark and shooting out lights and stuff." And Conviction wasn't that. And then I think this was trying to be a little bit of best of both, is they wanted to give you that feeling, but also to kind of have a few more like action set pieces and just with the gameplay just to make it a little bit more accessible and streamlined. And I think they pulled it off, to be honest.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun game. And also it's cheap as chips, right? It was like £4 when I bought it, so...
It was £15 when I bought it, but I didn't think there was a sale, wasn't there? Like right afterwards.
Ubisoft had a big sale, so
yeah, bad timing.
But But yeah, I don't have anything else I'd like to get off my chest about this game. So have you got anything?
Yeah, well, I was just going to seeing as we were talking about like how much we bought it for and stuff. I think it's probably worth mentioning that the game didn't perform particularly well. This was the seventh Splinter Cell game, and they haven't done like a mainline release since then. There might have been some mobile things. I think Sam Fisher has like cameoed in like other Ubisoft games, but this is essentially the last Splinter Cell game as we know it. They were hoping for it to sell 5 million copies within 3 months. They released it sold 2 million copies, so under half their expectations. Obviously, you know, selling 2 million copies isn't nothing, but for Ubisoft standards, when they were like also releasing like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, like they're looking at money invested compared to returned. So I don't think like it lost them a lot of money, but it lost them a lot of, I guess, potential money. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it is the last mainline Splinter Cell game. So what kind of attracted me to this game is it kind of has ended up kind of in that cult classic status that I'm always curious about, which is why I wanted to play it. Was the game that, you know, people don't really ever talk about, but the ones that do talk about it, like talk about how much they love it. And that's why I was super curious to kind of see it for myself.
Yeah, and I could see it. I can see why people love it, definitely. So shall we put it on the list?
Yep, let's put it on the list. Okay, we have the list up now. This is going to be the 70th entry onto the list. Are you, before we jump in, are you content with the list as it stands, as we're putting this on, as far as we ever are?
I mean, I think I've been playing a lot of Doom recently because of the new update, Doom 1+2, for anyone interested. I think it could move up. The game rules, and rules even more with this new update, which I know we can't really count because we counted at the time we played it, but it's Doom, baby. It needs to be top 10.
Yeah, and one of the things we didn't discuss when we did the Doom episode is we really didn't touch on multiplayer at all. And I know that you've been playing multiplayer. I know you're not been playing it exactly kind of as it was back in the day, but it's also kind of giving a glimpse, I suppose, to you for what it was like. So would you want to move it up to number 12 then? And then that would move GTA 5 down to 13?
Oh, God, no. No. GTA... Doom would have to move up significantly higher than that for that to be worth it, because GTA 5 is still blowing my mind. I've been playing GTA 5 since January.
Okay, so for those that aren't watching the video version or aren't up to date with bonus points lore, Prey 2017, one of my absolute favourite games of all time, has been chained to Doom. So if Doom goes up, Prey goes along with it. So I would be up to moving them both up, because I would love to get Prey back in the top 10. Where would you want that pair to go if we were to move them up?
Maybe we could have them in 9 and 10.
Put them back in the top 10?
Yeah, I think so.
So there'd be one. I mean, for Prey, I would go above the Last of Us games, as crazy as that might sound to you. On my personal list, it's higher than them. Like, I would draw the line at Hollow Knight. So would you want it any higher?
No, I think 9 and 10 is okay for now.
Okay, it's going to be annoying though, because something's going to get in top 10 and it's going to push Doom out, and the chain's going to be stretched.
Yeah, but I deal with that. You don't have to worry about that. Should we quickly do that?
Yeah, let's do that. And then, who'd have thought the top 10 is going to be switched around?
There we go.
Wasn't expecting that.
No, me neither. But, I mean, mate, if you get some time, I know you're also really busy, you need to jump on Doom with us, because I'm playing with the Discord server, and like it's just so much fun. Like, the game is so timeless, and with 16 people, it's completely mad. So.
I watched a video from Digital Foundry about kind of this new version, and about how like they're using a new engine so it can run at like 120 FPS on console, and then there's like this really famous level which is basically just like a room with just like hundreds if not thousands of enemies they're just in one big room, and like the game could never really run it back in the day, but like it can now like run that game like on console, like where you'd need like a mad PC back in the day. So yeah, I've been curious to check it out, but just not at the time.
Yeah, anyone that owns Doom that maybe bought it back when we did the episodes, this update is free, so check it out. Anyway.
Yeah, cool. Let me just quickly read top 10, seeing as it's switched around. So I go from 1 down. So number 1 still is Baldur's Gate 3. Number 2 is Disco Elysium. Then Zelda Tears of the Kingdom at 3. At 4, Alan Wake 2. At 5, Death Stranding. 6, Hollow Knight. 7, Last of Us Part 2. 8, Last of Us Part 1. And then back in the top 10, number 9 is Prey. And then at 10 is Doom.
There we go. Awesome. I'm happy with that. Good little change. Anyway, let's focus on Sam Fisher and his miserable friends. Splinter Cell Blacklist. Whereabouts are you thinking on the list this is going to go?
I'm thinking kind of around the Forgotten City area, which is at 37.
I was thinking around Driver, which is at 39.
Okay,
kind of
so
reminded me of Driver in a lot. It's like if Driver, in terms of the fun of the gameplay, they're the same. But Driver was also really funny, so that's why it's a bit better. But Splinter Cell had no charm, but the gameplay was good. So I put it around there.
Yeah, I'm actually super... Oh, both Ubisoft, actually. Now I'm thinking about it. Kind of similar era as well.
Yeah, there's probably no wonder that the gameplay kind of rips if it's the same team. So, or same sort of people anyway.
Yeah. At least I guess same heads, I guess, overseeing it. Yeah, I think overall I like Blacklist the gameplay more than Driver San Francisco, just because I'm not so much into driving games. But as you say, like Driver San Francisco, just tonally is just more entertaining, and I think it's a more unique game, despite, as we kind of mentioned before, it probably being the worst named game on the list. The most boring name is actually one of the more creative and innovative games that we have here. Yeah. So, to be honest, I could go either way, either side of Driver San Francisco.
I tell you what, there's one other thing that hit me while I was playing this game. On our Patreon exclusive podcast, Extra Credit, we answered the question, if you put all games of all time from best to worst, every single game from best to worst, what game would be exactly in the middle? And there was a part of me that was like, Splinter Cell Blacklist is the exact middle point of all games. It is the exact average of all games. It's not poor. It's not amazing. It is the exact middle point. So for that, I would have it below Driver San Francisco.
I think that's if that's like boxed console games. Because if you're including mobile games, then that is probably in like the top 1%. Because
or what was that one you were
like
just playing?
Steam trash.
Farm Merge or something you
Ollie was messing up trying to get his camera working, and so I started playing a Discord farming game for like 5 seconds.
But yeah, I think it, as it always comes down to for me anyway, is like, could I recommend this? And between Driver and Splinter Cell, I would say to people, play Driver San Francisco. It's really fun.
Yeah, let's put Driver in front of it. I think that the fact that we're so close, and the fact that like Driver San Francisco is a bit more of a risk rather than the 7th Splinter Cell Blacklist. Obviously, Driver was an existing franchise, but like they could change the name to not be a Driver game, and it could be called any, there's nothing really drivery about it. Like when I think of Driver, like from back in the old games, it was like the novelty of being able to get out your car is what I think about. Whereas in this game, you can't really get out your car. In a way you can, but you can't walk around the street.
Spiritually, I'm there. But physically, I'm still in the car. So that puts Splinter Cell at 40.
Yeah, so Splinter Cell's at 40, Driver San Francisco above it at 39, and then that's pushed Phoenix Wright down to number 41.
Yeah, nice one. I think that's a perfect place for it.
Nice, easy, no bother, no troubles, no tears.
No.
Just two lads agreeing on video game placement, which is what you're all here for. Two agreeable lads.
No, that's not what they're all here for. When they all come in the comments, they'll be like, "Oh, it's the best game, and it's the Splinter Cell. It's the only one. It needs to be at the top." Like that's what it will be. Everyone.
Well, that's the thing is because the people leaving those comments are the ones that like love it. Like no one's like leaving that like a passionate comment about like generally agreeing. It's people that think we got it really wrong or really right. But you got to remember, it's impossible for us to get it wrong because it's our opinion.
It's our list.
It literally, there's no way we could get the placement wrong because it's what we think at that moment. So
exactly. There's Ubisoft has got a good showing here as well. There's two types of Ubisoft games. There's kind of the 2010 era Ubisoft games which do okay, and then there's Beyond Good and Evil, which is the other one. So like, that's all of their showing on the list at the moment. We've not done any of their we've not done a game that Ubisoft is actually famous for, like a Far Cry type.
No,
running around. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Splinter Cell was, I guess.
No, but like,
maybe
you know
less
what I mean?
so
Like
now.
you climb a tower and you unlock the map, and you know they're famous.
Yeah, we've not done of that type. I mean, there's Star Wars Outlaws that's coming out very soon, but
yeah,
I mean, we're not going to do that though.
No, we're not going to do that.
think.
No. Yeah,
But
no.
it's there.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything. We're not doing anything. Anyway, do you want to hear what we are actually doing?
Yeah, what am I going to be playing over the next month or so?
So Donkey Kong on Game Boy is coming out September. Oh, not coming out. Our episode's coming out on September 6th. That is
They're really late for that. They really missed the boat with the Donkey Kong hype on the Game Boy.
on the Game Boy. It's the
25 years in development. It's finally out.
It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be the best Game Boy game ever.
It could be the best Game Boy game ever. A lot of people love it, so maybe it could be. It's the one where it's kind of looks like the old arcade game, but it's a lot more expanded. You'll see it. It came out in 1994. And then after that, we're doing Joe's favourite tongue twister, Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery EP, which is coming out. Our episode's coming out on September 20th. God, I'm tired. And then we just decided, just before we started recording, we're going to do new release Plucky Squire. And that comes out on September 17th. And our episode comes out on October 4th, which is a new release on PS5, PC, Xbox Series, both of them, and also Switch. So you can play that. And the art director of Pokemon is one of the guys behind the game. James Turner, his name is. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he was on like Sword and Shield and stuff as well, and then some of the like non-Nintendo ones as well. I think he worked on Colosseum was the first one that he worked on, I believe.
All right, cool. I didn't know that. He's English too, British guy. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool. And then after that, we are doing Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, which comes out on September 18th, and our episode comes out on October 18th. So exactly 1 month. So yeah, that's what's coming up.
Cool, awesome. People probably won't be surprised. There's not going to be many kind of one-offs or other things happening at the moment, just because we're both quite busy, me with work and Ollie with work and moving. But the podcast will be released at its kind of normal time every other Friday, as well as our secondary podcast, Extra Credit, which is a Patreon-only exclusive that will continue to be released every other week as well. But we will get back into the swing of one-off episodes, once Ollie is settled in his new abode.
Yeah, can't wait. Looking forward to it. Should be pretty cool. Maybe we could do Splinter Cell co-op in the new house. We could do it in real life. The house is quite big. We can run around and do you remember? Oh my God, he used to split jump. He doesn't split jump anymore. Do you remember he used to jump?
Yeah. I remember that.
We should move it down one place because they removed that, because that was the coolest thing.
Yeah, but we can do that in real life. We'll see who's the best at doing the split jump in real life. Yeah, that'd be the new best of three. You can stay. It's who can hide from Ollie's fiance for longest in the house by split jumping. Like who will she find first?
Mate, imagine if she didn't even know you were there. You'd absolutely terrify her.
Ollie, why are there footprints up the walls? I just painted this room.
Why is there a proximity mine in the bedroom? I told you not to leave your stuff out.
Why is there a GoPro that keeps clicking noises at me? I don't.
Whistling. Oh, did you know there's a whistle button as well, by the way? Press back.
Yeah, it's really useful. If someone's a bit away, they just walk to you and take them out. Really effective.
Yeah. Funny. Anyway, that's us. That's everything. Cheers.
Cool, awesome. So thank you everyone for watching and listening this episode. As Ollie mentioned, we'll be back in 2 weeks to do the Donkey Kong version of Game Boy, or the Game Boy version of Donkey Kong, I should say. If you haven't heard of it, it's not just Donkey Kong. It's not just like a port of the arcade version of Donkey Kong. It is kind of its own game. So don't feel like you know exactly what this is. If you are someone that likes to kind of play along with us, there's probably a way you could find to play this game without a cartridge. I will not say any more than that. But if you played this game for a couple hours, I'm sure it will give you a better idea of what we're talking about in that episode. So please do join us. But apart from that, thanks for watching or listening, and we'll see you all later. Bye.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.